Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. And you see us as you want to see us. In the simplest terms, with the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a brain.
And an athlete.
And a basket case. A princess.
And a criminal.
Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
It is Sound Opinions. Jim DeRogatis of the Chicago Sun-Times, Greg Cott of the Chicago Tribune. I'm Marty Leonardson. We have John Hughes, the director of Breakfast Club. John, I hope you don't mind that we took an excerpt from your film.
I said that was the Billy Corgan life story there, wasn't it?
It could have been.
I think so.
I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm becoming a relic.
Takes us back, John. We grew up with that stuff.
That's right.
I was already grown up when I did it, so I am really a relic.
Well, for you it was sociology, but for us it was our life, you know?
That's true. That's true.
What about, John, we're going to sort of talk a little bit about your, getting into film, but specifically how you were able to use music so well in your films, especially in that particular scene that we just sort of gave a little excerpt from. It seemed like you were always thinking in terms of how you were able to work music and musical elements into your movies. They were an integral part of your scripts, it seemed like, as opposed to just sort of being sort of glommed on at the end to sell a movie or something like that. The whole relationship between images and music seemed to be totally your thing. I mean, where did that come from? How did you sort of develop that?
Well, I would rather have been a musician than anything else, And when I was in high school, I wasn't the most popular person, and I found solace in music, and in having my own taste and my own style. And I loved finding a band that nobody else had heard of yet. And when I got a chance to make pictures, I was determined to get the music right.
What did you play, John? Did you grow up playing an instrument?
Okay, guess. if you're no good and you're in a band, what do you play?
Drums?
No. You gotta be pretty good to play drums. Rhythm guitar.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
You can't turn up past 3. 3 chords. And if you're really bad, they'll turn you all the way down. But you get to go and stand up there and be in the lights.
Hey, John,
did you gig
excuse
around
me for
town?
a second, John. Could you pull your microphone down just a little bit? You have to really be up on top of that thing.
You were in a band that gigged around town when you were growing up?
Around the suburban town.
Well, you know what I mean. Garage band.
Yeah, it was. It was the Shadows of Night days.
Okay. So Vox organ.
No, we didn't have an organ.
Okay.
We had 2 bass players.
2 bass players.
One played bass, and the other drove.
So, or Nick Coleman before his
Kind
time.
of like avant-garde rock. Yeah, that was Tortoise, 2 basses.
There you go.
There you go.
The other bass wasn't plugged in. He didn't want to be. He just wanted to be up on the stage, and he drove, which it was a lot better to be driven by someone who's close to your own age than having your dad drive you to your gig.
It's essential. Absolutely essential. The car's essential.
In the big Chevy station wagon, and then they stay and watch the show and wave and say, "That's my son." The guy that's not playing.
That's right. So, the idea of using music in these films that you were scripting and directing was sort of a natural extension of that. I mean, to me, what was intriguing about your movies was that early on, I mean, nobody knew who Simple Minds was before The Breakfast Club, except for the hardcore fans.
Yeah.
So you must have somehow been among that hardcore elite that found out about Simple Minds before anybody knew.
Or
who they were.
what were your criteria for choosing songs? How did you?
It was what I was listening to. I discovered when I was in high school. I discovered Melody Maker, and I could take the train downtown, go to State and Randolph. There was a big newsstand there that had out-of-town papers, and I'd pick up Melody Maker and New Musical Express from England, and I noticed that the charts were different, and there were all these. Number 1 song in England was not the same as the number 1 song in America. And I thought, well, where can I get this band? So there were little ads that would say, "We export." So I would, I got like Pretty Things. I had the Who album very early. I had the Who album at the same time Rubber Soul came out, because Rubber Soul came and I said goodbye. Too many acoustic guitars, I'm leaving.
Check it out. Terry Hemmert alert.
I was 15, and you don't want Norwegian Wood wasn't any good at 15. It didn't go quite hard enough. So I'd always maintained that connection to the import record world, and I discovered there's a wonderful record store here in town called Wax Trax. It was on
Lincoln Avenue.
It was on Lincoln, by the Biograph.
Mm-hmm.
And every Sunday I'd go down there and buy my load of records and go home and make a 90-minute cassette tape, which in those days I could. There was so much music, in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. I just,
You go to that new release of singles bin, right?
it was those British singles. And some of those, I used to buy ska records that were hand stamped.
Yeah.
They probably pressed 500 of them.
Right.
And I built a huge collection, and it was the only thing I ever took care of. But I had a big record collection, and I had Simple Minds. I presumed everybody knew who Simple Minds was because they were on. A&M had a deal. I think they were on Virgin in England. And they were on. They
had a couple albums out by that point here in the United States. Now,
but nobody at A&M when I suggested it, because I thought I couldn't get anybody to make the movie. And the studios also said it was a play. I said, well, that's probably why I would make a good movie. They
didn't understand that logic.
So I went to A&M and said, why don't you make it, and I'll put these bands in, because there were a lot of bands that were on A&M.
So the music drove the movie.
Yeah, and I thought, naively, wow, you guys can sell records, because I'll put the song in, it'll all work out fine. Mm-hmm. And they gave me a little bit of money to start making the movie. And in the meantime, we were going so slow, because you'd hire somebody for a day, then you wait a week, and then when they were free again, you get the casting director for another day. I wrote 16 Candles, which I thought, okay, well, this is much more commercial, because it had all those, it had a party, had a love story, had a goof, had a car crash, and had all the things. And Universal bought that. And I said I had a problem. I had this deal with A&M to sell all their English records. And anyway, they bought Breakfast Club from A&M and made both of them as Universal Pictures.
Really extraordinary that there was no, but I can't believe that there was a record label that was more interested in you as a director at that point.
Was Spandau Ballet on A&M at the time? And you used them in 16 Candles?
I can't
remember.
I don't remember, because I had him on import.
Yeah.
Because there was that whole new
I used the import in the album, in the movie.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. There was a time I had a 12-inch remix, and it was a 4AD band. There was nothing on the label except, I think it looked like paisley wallpaper. And we're trying to figure out what the song was so we could clear it, get the rights, legally. I said, I don't know, I lost the cover. But I don't know, it's on here. And, so you have to send somebody out to figure out who did a label with just paisley on it,
Mm-hmm. What did it turn out to be?
I think it was, it was, there was that Art of Noise, the Trevor Horn stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was a Clan of Zymox, maybe something.
Yeah.
Right. I can't remember exactly, but it was something in that ilk.
This is Sound Opinions on 93 XRT. We're talking with John Hughes, film directors. We take a look at movie soundtracks. Now, in the film Pretty in Pink, the name of the record store was Trax. Was that a nod to Wax Trax?
That was a little nod to Wax Trax.
Jim Nash must have been very happy about that.
And I gave him a thank you on the end of I think it was 16 Candles, because that was my they were my place.
Mm-hmm. They were the only store for a long time to buy anything cool in Chicago for years and years and years. It was like suddenly this little oasis of cool landed on Lincoln Avenue, and for probably a span of like maybe 5 to 8 years there, that was a store where you went to buy records. If you were a serious collector.
I would be in there every Sunday afternoon. I was there. I could be there for 3 hours finding stuff. And it was every week those import singles came in. And they were in that big bin.
Yeah, no, I think anybody
plastic that was almost impossible to open.
Yeah, and they also had little stickers. Stuff, yeah. They had little dividers telling you whether you should actually buy it or not.
Yeah, that's very true. There was a definite opinion. Honestly, get this is cool. Forget it.
They put a few stars on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we swing into this Best Buy universe where everything is superstores, because I had the same sort of situation growing up in Hoboken. There was a record store called Pier Platters. You'd go in there, you'd see this guy Bill Ryan, and you would say, Bill, what do you got for me? There's this band called the Soft Boys you need to hear.
That's exactly what Jim Nash did. Exactly the same thing.
Those guys, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those guys.
Right.
I had actually Jim Nash a few times. I'd go in there and I'd be buying stuff, and he knew me as a regular kind of guy. And he says, you don't want this. You go put it back. You want this instead.
Yeah, take
you
this.
go grab something else, and his taste was impeccable. It was just like you always got the right stuff.
Here's this band called the DBs. You really need to hear them.
Right.
I feel very, I feel bad for a lot of kids that can't get into a store like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because to me, buying records was always a sacred experience, and to go into a place where they're selling refrigerators. You've got to walk through the refrigerators to go to the records.
Well, that's how you wind up buying the Eminem record, instead of something good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. John, you got to tell the story about Pretty in Pink, because just the whole scenario here, Pretty in Pink, you titled a movie, I thought, my God, somebody's found out about this band, the Psychedelic Furs, and not only that, they're titling a movie after it. And what was the whole scenario there? I mean, that was very fascinating to me, this obscure song sort of, ending up as a movie title in a very well-known movie.
I always liked, I liked the title of that song because I grew up in Detroit, and the toughest guys always wore pink shirts, and they wore pink shirts because they wanted you to say something about the pink shirt, so they have an excuse to beat you up, And when I saw a song, Pretty in Pink as a title was sort of daring, I mean, it had an interesting, because you see Richard Butler, you see those guys, and they're doing a song called Pretty in Pink, and the song wasn't pretty and it wasn't pink.
And they're ugly and they're scary looking.
And it was just Pretty in Pink. There was just this nice twist on it, and I had this movie that another one that actually had been at Universal, and they passed on it because it was a female story. And female stories boys don't go to girls' movies. Are you nuts?
Oh my God!
Where do you think they go to find?
Right. We're just assuming that these are like only some of the most successful movies of the decade, right?
So I took it over to Paramount when Ned Tannen moved over. I took it with me, and we had come off Breakfast Club. We put Molly in it, and she wanted to do it. And I thought, what a great title that would be, because they're saying, boys don't go to girls' movies. Let's name it Pretty in Pink. Let's make it, if that's a problem, let's make it a bigger problem. Let's make it such a big problem it's not a problem anymore. Mm-hmm. So we got the song, and I said, well, let's use the song, not just the title, but use the song. I had done that before with 16 Candles. Mm-hmm. Which says something about my inability to title, doesn't it? And I just thought it worked great, because it went right at it. It wasn't. Right. We weren't trying to hide the fact that this was a story about a woman. It was a woman's story that that worked both ways, and let's stick pink in the title and go right. Go right.
And Pretty in Pink is such a dark song too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It worked really well.
Mm-hmm. Now we got it queued up, John. Actually, now this is the different version than the one that was on the album. No, this is the soundtrack.
This is your version.
We're gonna play
from the soundtrack version.
How did it come to? Did the Furs get involved? Did they They added horns and stuff for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which was their choice. Because I wouldn't. I had a lot of respect for those guys, and the last thing I wanted to do. I mean, I would rather have had a movie go completely fail than have a band that I admired mad at me. Mm-hmm. Or to take them out of their world where they had their control and they had their respect, and bring them into my world, abuse their work, use them and then throw them away and say, gee, I'm sorry, or hopefully never see them again. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't interfere with that. There was only one time I made a request, and that was on Everything But the Girl song. The demo had a drum machine on it. And it was such a great, cheap drum sound that when they redid the song, they redid the drums. I think they used a studio guy or something. Mm-hmm. It was just too slick. And I said, could you go back to the demo? But other than that, the bands did it the way they wanted to do it.
Are most bands really happy to be involved in a film like that? To have their song chosen for a film?
It's and I don't know how it is now, because I did Reach the Rock with my son, and I did that the way I did it in the 80s. A lot of respect for the bands. Do it your way. I like what you do. Just give me what you do best. Other than that, I don't know. I was, there's some money. Obviously they get paid to put the song and if it's a hit. But a lot of these guys didn't care. Mm-hmm. And there was a little controversy about Simple Minds having had a hit with a song that wasn't theirs. And people said, did that offend you? And I said, no, it didn't, because I understood that. It wasn't their song. They did it. They probably don't necessarily regret the success, but I'm sure they thought, I wish we'd made it on one of ours. What was wrong with, with one of our, Sparkle and Rain songs,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a song being in a film now. You get the video with it. You get a lot of airplay and a lot of attention, and it certainly does take some bands to a level they probably wouldn't get to on their own.
Yeah, but the songs that work best in movies are the songs that mean something to the movie, rather than just something that's been tacked on.
Right.
I mean, you can see it all over the place now. Every television commercial ends with featuring the music of, and there's this ancient perception, it will not go away, that somebody will go see a movie because Fatboy Slim's in it.
Right.
The song, it didn't work when I was a kid. Didn't work.
That's what we're going
in the 50s.
That's what this show's about, John.
Yeah, we're going to be getting.
Thank you for saying that.
We're going to be getting into that in our second segment about songs that have worked.
I'm not answering the questions. I'm getting into the wrong segment.
No.
You're getting us to the right segment. You're actually leading us right in. But first, what we're going to do is play "Pretty in Pink," the version that was from the film, the remixed version here on Sound.
But don't forget the original version.
No, we never do.
The whole album is great.
In fact, actually, when given the choice to play it on the air, I always go for the original version.